We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships.
This is the Couples Academy Show.
Well, welcome. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. This is Friday, and you know what that means. It is Ask the Experts. And so my name is Hassani.
My name is Walter Jennings.
And my name is Roland Bradley.
And we're here this morning to give you what you need. So whatever your question is, whether you're single, dating, and engaged, married, committed courtship, maybe you're separated or you're on the verge of divorce, maybe you're in crisis and you need help, whatever your situation is, we want you to ask your question. So post it right now so that we can address it. This is all about you today. This is the place where people all over the world come to connect, to hear about love, life, and relationships. And we're happy to serve you with the spirit of excellence. Listen, this is going to be a great weekend this weekend, and we want to make sure that you start your weekend off to a great start by getting the information you need to get you through this weekend. So post your question. But in the meantime, guys, we're excited because there's so many things that are happening here, programs that we're unleashing, events that we're doing so that we could better serve you. As you know, the Last Chance Weekend is coming up the second weekend of July. We're excited about that. And for those that really want an inside look at what it is, sometimes, you know, it's one thing to hear from us. It's another thing to hear it from someone who's experienced it. So listen to this testimony. We'll be right back. In the meantime, post your question so we can dive right in. Stay right there.
Hi, my name is Jewel Smith. I am from Allentown, Pennsylvania. I came this weekend to the Last Chance weekend to reconnect with my husband. We were really at a bad place before we got here. Coming, you know, through the gates into this magnificent place. I came here very angry, unbeknown to some people, but I was very angry. And I technically already had in my mind that I'm coming to support what he wanted, but my mind was already made that 9 times out of 10, this is not going to work and I'm going to be out. But a lot has changed. Day one was really rough, you know, got down to the root of things and what our problems were. But it actually allowed me to see the faults that I had, where I played a part in why my marriage was not working and starting to fall apart. That also allowed me to see things in my husband that I never knew he felt. It also allowed me to understand why he did the things that he did. So after we completed all of that, and then we went into class and we talked some things out and we fussed, we cried. Day 2, we went on a field trip and I really got a chance to get emotionally, how could I say this? I got in touch with a lot of emotion and feeling that I didn't think was in me. I was able to see some things that I didn't like. I was able to experience some things that I was afraid of. And in doing that, it definitely gave me a different mindset. It allowed me to cry. It allowed me to feel scared. It allowed me to have all kinds of emotions that I didn't think I still had in me to come out. We went for walks. That walk enabled us to talk. We talked about any and everything. We talked about the things that we want to see in our marriage. We talked about goals. We talked about setting boundaries. We talked about the things that we never talked about before, the things that we never thought about having in our marriage, but now knowing that those are the best things that you need to have. You have to set boundaries. You have to have goals. Your spouse is not a mind reader. He doesn't understand, or she doesn't understand what you're thinking, or you don't function the way he functions and she doesn't function the way. It's just a back and forth things. But when you can talk and you can say, this is what I think this particular situation is, then you can come to some common ground on how to restore it. I'm in a better place. I'm in a place of understanding. I'm in a place of renewal. If you are going through anything of that sort, this would be the best place for you to be. I can honestly say that when I leave here, my marriage is going to be renewed. My thought process is restored. And I can only thank Danielle and Hassani for that, and God, because if it wasn't for the three of them to help me through this journey, I probably would be still stuck in the mindset that I had that my marriage was over. So I thank you.
What a powerful, powerful testimony of what happens when you come to a last chance weekend. As she said, I was done. I was only showing up because that's what he wanted us to do, but I already had plans. I was out. And so there's so many people who are watching right now who are so determined that they're done. It's over. They're filing papers. You know, we only got 3 more weeks before this thing is officially over, but there's something in them that's willing to say, let me give this thing a try. And they are blown away by the transformation that they experience. Now, both of you have had the opportunity of participating in these last chance weekends. What have you seen in terms of the turnaround and the transformation that people have experienced?
I've noticed the transformation for couples because, again, they came in a state of desperation. They didn't have a clue of what to expect. But once they've experienced it, once they've got an opportunity to connect with one another and be able to do a deep dive within themselves, they realize how much they really love and need each other. They fall back in love again, basically, and they touch one another in ways that hadn't been touched in a long time. And so for that cause, it gives them that opportunity to experience something that they didn't think that they would be able to experience ever again.
Walter, what about you?
Absolutely. I agree with Roland. The whole experience is comprehensive and transformational. And even through Jules' words and response, like she mentioned the fact that she was able that to not only come angry, and that anger, although it was directed at her husband, she ultimately was able to self-reflect. And that's one of the biggest components of Last Chance Weekend, are allowing couples, these individuals, to then take a look at themselves so they can recognize the work that needs to be done in order to be able to heal their marriage. Every marriage is comprised of 2 people. And if one person wants to do the work and the other one doesn't, it doesn't matter how much that one individual wants to do the work, wants to do it, it's going to fail. Both individuals have to be committed to not only doing the work to repair their marriage, but also the work to grow and better themselves. And that's what Last Chance Weekend really provides.
Wow. Powerful statement. So listen, if you're on the fence, if you're trying to figure out whether you should do this, listen, just do what makes sense. Come here and have your marriage transformed. All right, let's jump into some questions. We're going to go to Ben first. Good morning from Tennessee. What do you do when you cannot emotionally disconnect from the affair partner, even after 4 months of no contact, looking at after son hits 18 serving divorce paper? Okay, I guess once your son turns 18, you want to serve divorce papers. You're the unfaithful one. You go on to say, after being shown genuine burning desire by the affair partner, the spouse is not capable of that. Problems with most. She's trying for now, but my mind says, how long till this ends? And I'm in the same boat. All right, listen, this is a serious question. This is a valid question. This is where oftentimes people find themselves. Listen, just because an affair officially comes to an end, it does not mean that you are disconnected from that person. We talk about the difference between being single and separate. If we're in a relationship today, we break up on Friday, I may be physically separate from you, but I'm not single yet until I have a singleness of heart and singleness of mind, until I've gone through a she-tox, getting that woman out of my system, or that woman goes through a he-tox, getting the man out of their system. So it's more than just physical. Obviously, it's emotional because he's still thinking, dreaming, anticipating, having a craving for this affair partner. So, Walter, I want you to weigh into this, and then Roland, I want you to jump on board.
Sure, absolutely. So it's important to know that all affairs stem from one place, and that's selfishness. Now, when we think of selfishness, we oftentimes think of it in the destructive way, which most of the times is true. But there are things, as we look at self-care, where selfishness can actually be a good thing. But the point that I'm making is, Ben, for you, there is something that you are getting, or some things that you are getting from your affair partner that you are not getting within your marriage. And I think you allude to it when you talk about the genuine burning desire. So it sounds like you're wanting to be desired. You're wanting for your wife to want you, like it seems like your affair partner wants you. And so we want to caution you that it's very easy to feel like things would be better if you were to leave your wife for a fair partner, but you are living in a fantasy. That is not reality. And so we oftentimes find men that have that same mindset, leave their wife or their affair partner, and guess what? 6 months to a year into that new relationship, now they're in the same position that they were in with their previous marriage. Why? Because you haven't dealt with those internal challenges of what it is that is causing you to stray, or haven't put the processes and strategies in place to do the necessary work to cultivate your marriage in a way that's going to be mutually beneficial. When you talk about emotionally disconnecting, that communication and that trust, some of those things that you built with that affair partner, those things need to be redirected in order to build that connection with your wife. Emotional intimacy, emotional connection comes through trust and strong communication. So there are some things that have been that have been misappropriated and allocated to that affair partner, as Hassani just mentioned, that need to be repurposed in order to build up yourself and make sure that you're reconnecting with your wife.
There's only one thing I can say to that. That's it. That's it. That's a bomb. That's a bomb drop right there, Walt. So weigh in. Let's hear what you got.
How do I tiptoe around these landmines that Walter is dropping, right? So listen, we talk about the grass being greener on the other side, and if we don't take care of our own lawn and water our own grass, it will become dry, and it's going to always look like the other grass is green. However, if you take out the time to aerate your grass, to water your grass, to cultivate your grass, you'll get everything that you need out of it. You know, my backyard I use as an example all the time had dried up. Why? Because I wasn't tending to it. I had become consistently selfish about not watering my own grass. And I needed some help. I needed someone to come in to help me and show me how to cultivate my own lawn so that I can have a better appreciation for it. And so now I understand that the grass that looks green on the other side is just turf. I'm holding on to what I have, which is the real thing.
Wow. Excellent answer. Very, very, very true. Let's jump into another question. We have a two-part here from Jaguar. She says, is it fair to ask my sex addict husband to not travel for business? I'm still healing from multiple betrayals and affairs. We're building back trust, but his job sends him to frequent conferences and trainings for days out of state, and that causes me severe anxiety. This is a situation. So this is what I would advise, and you guys are free to weigh in. You know, oftentimes work is a hotbed for infidelity. That is the space where we're around members of the opposite sex in close proximity, and all types of things go down. And of course, when he has a position where he's traveling and he's physically separate from you, and if he's not operating in integrity, then it's nothing but temptation. And so I would say ultimately that job has to change. You know, we've seen many people who have quit jobs. They have sold their homes and relocated. They have sold cars and possessions because those particular items or experiences or places and spaces were used for the affair. So yes, I do think that it makes sense that he makes a transition. However, I would say that there should be a plan in place for this to happen. Think about a cruise ship. If you turn that cruise ship too quickly, that whole thing can topple and it can cause a serious disaster, right? So if he's the financial provider or producing a significant amount of income for your lifestyle, then a quick, abrupt shift may have other consequences that you may not be able to sustain. Now, I don't know your situation. Maybe he doesn't have to go to conferences. Maybe that's not required. If it is not, he should keep his behind home, right? But if he does, I think there needs to be a plan in place for a significant transition of careers or a different role or something different, so that he can be home and so he could avoid this temptation and get the helps that he needs. Because if he's a sex addict, and that's the thing, like I'm hearing you say sex addict, has he been diagnosed as a sex addict? Is that your personal diagnosis? Because a lot of things we attach the wrong titles to the wrong things and make it something that it's not, and then we medicate something the wrong way and it doesn't solve the problem. So while there are addictions associated with affairs, there are hidden addictions as well that may not be sex, but nonetheless we're dealing with betrayals. So ultimately I do think there needs to be a shift, because if not, he will continue to do what he's always done. What do you guys say?
Yeah, absolutely. So there definitely is a reckoning that has to happen when it comes to his profession and his marriage. And while it may seem unfair, I actually had a conversation recently, and I was telling a gentleman that oftentimes when, especially as men, we have this whole idea of, well, not mixing family or the personal with business. Well, when you utilize your work or your job to mask affairs, you actually cross that line before your wife even has to address it. So that intertwining has taken place, and it must be addressed. And Jaguar, you have to be a part of that conversation. And so having a conversation with him about his job, just as Hassani mentioned, is traveling necessary? Are there potential accountability partners or ways that you can either travel with him, or what type of strategies can be set up so that he can check in a way that's going to help not only subside some of that anxiety that you have, but also to provide some of that accountability? And so, yeah, but it sounds like because of his career that he may need to change jobs, and he's going to have to make a choice between that particular business endeavor and his marriage.
Without a shadow of a doubt, we have a lot of questions, so I want to shift to some other things here, but I think that was a comprehensive answer, and that does make sense. Carlene says, good morning, Roland. I love your analogies. Thank you for the knowledge that you provide. You all have dropped so much good information on this cell. So here we have somebody acknowledging Roland. Also, this is interesting. I literally just got a text 2 minutes after we started from someone in the Moving Forward program who says, you know what, Hassani, I really didn't want to share my story with another person, but I'm so grateful and very happy to be working with Roland and Janelle. They have been super helpful for Darrell and I. I love them. Just wanted to give you a 5-star review. So excellent work on what you're doing. We appreciate the effort you're making. But Roland, I want to go take you to this question. Me and my husband do not talk at all, and I feel this is draining me so much. Please help. What advice do you have to them, Roland?
So listen, the fact of the matter is things don't matter to us until they matter to us. And we have to learn how to communicate with one another to be able to allow things to flow. We have some insecurities a lot of times that keep us from communicating with one another. But when we get over that hump, when we get over that hurdle and be able to address those things, we can find ourselves in a place to communicate, to get past a lot of things that are hidden, a lot of things that are suppressed, a lot of things that we just feel like we don't want to talk about. Sometimes we have to have those hard conversations, and we have to be courageous enough to have those hard conversations. And so we don't want you to be drained, obviously. And as men, we have to know that we hold the water. We are the pitcher. We have to pour into our wives, and we're only going to get back what we pour in. So if we're not pouring in, we're not going to get anything back. You have to be willing to do the work. And again, to cultivate your area for it to grow.
Excellent answer. Thank you for that. Listen, I want to take this over to you, Walter. Here's a question. What do you do when your spouse expects you to walk you as a couple through their affair? I'm interpreting what she's saying. In essence, she's the betrayer, okay? And the spouse does not want anything to do with the third party involved in their situation. So what do you do in that case?
So it definitely is an individual responsibility that it sounds like your partner is looking at you to take, and taking the initiative to admit exactly what has happened and to help lead out what needs to take place when it comes to the healing and the restoration and the reconciliation. But there is going to need to be a joining of your spouse being a part of that process, but it sounds like he's not ready for that yet. However, one of the things that will help in that process is him seeing you take this necessary steps and doing the work in trying to rectify and admit the wrong that has taken place.
Awesome. Here's another great question. I want you guys to weigh in. And sometimes, when these questions are asked, we don't have all the information, so we can only do the best that we can. I see my husband trying to change and doing the work, but I fear major family issues on his side will hinder his growth. She goes on to say, how do I support him through his family matters while still protecting myself from being betrayed again? Walter, jump in, and then Roland piggyback.
Yeah. So first of all, it's very important that you acknowledge and let your husband know that you see the change that he is purposing to make. That is such an encouraging thing. And so help asking him also too, how you can support him within that change. And that will hopefully open the door for a conversation about some of the concerns that you have about that foundational family and the influence that they have. But I think that it does start with you having a transparent conversation with him about what you see, and then asking how you can support him, and that leading into a greater conversation about better ways to do that on your part.
Roland, I want you to pick up on this. Kay continued her point. She says, my spouse says we've been going through this for a year now in terms of their recovery, and we're still stagnant, but we cannot be this way for another year. I am at a loss. I've been working on myself. I just finished Unearthed and trying to do things to better myself, but I don't want to put our marriage on the back burner because I feel like I could lose my best friend. Weigh in on that.
Wow. So listen, we have to understand that marriage is a collective effort. Marriage is a joint effort. Marriage is a tug of war on the same side with the world. We have to understand, listen, that in order for us to move from one state to another, we have to be willing to move. A parked car can desire to go where it wants to go, but unless it moves, unless it starts the car and get moving, nothing won't happen. I appreciate the fact that you are working on yourself, because a lot of times what happens is we get stagnant, and then we allow our circumstances and our situations and our spouses to make us stagnant as well. So as long as you keep working on yourself, and then your spouse decides and sees that you're working, and then he begins to work on himself, now we can get the ball rolling. Now we don't have to stay at a stagnated place, but we have to acknowledge the fact that, listen, we're at a stagnated place. We don't want to be here another year. So now let's do something about it. Like, if you aim at nothing, you will hit it every time. You have to be willing to aim at what you want. What do you want your relationship to look like a year from now? What do you want to experience a year from now? And know that a journey can take place, and you could be in a better place a year from now.
Excellent point. Listen, guys, this is Ask the Experts. Here's your opportunity to get your questions in. We're going to go to a quick video. Be right back in just a second. Post your questions. We got about 8 more minutes. This is some great information. I hope you're chewing on it, digesting it, and seeing how you can begin to apply this information to your life, because if you do, it'll make a difference. Be right back. All right, guys, we're back. Vashan says Roland is on fire. Welcome, Roland. Good to have you. Man, they know how to give you a reception. Man, love it. All right, we got another question from Lisa. My insecurities is my own worst enemy. What can I do to overcome them? My husband committed the infidelity. He's trying so hard to mend our marriage. Walter, please give us some insight.
Yes, first of all, so Lisa, thank you so much for your honesty and transparency with recognizing that some of the challenges that you have are coming from inside of you. I mentioned earlier, right, that emotional intimacy is predicated upon strong communication and trust. This is a great opportunity for you to have some conversations with your husband about what you are feeling, so that way that can rebuild that emotional intimacy between the two of you all, and helping them to recognize that the way you're feeling, you're not blaming him, but you're recognizing that you're having some challenges because of some things that are inside of you, because of the atmosphere that he has created. And it can become an opportunity for dialogue and discussion, and also for him to connect with you in that way, so that you all can continue to move past it. But thank you again for your honesty in that. We run into a lot of people who want to make their spouse the face of their insecurities.
Yes.
And that is a recipe for disaster in your relationships. So this is a really big and important step in being able to rebuild that connection.
Thank you for just always giving these comprehensive answers that really make sense. The insight and the perspective you come from is very needed. And really, guys, like, a lot of times we find that people are asking the same questions again and again and again and again and again. It goes in one ear and out the other. But if you truly listen to what these gentlemen are saying, you decode it, right? And you figure out, how can I make this practical in my life? It'll make a significant difference for you. I want to give this to you. We're going to probably wind up ending with this. But Roland, what is some good advice for work days on your marriage to rebuild after the affair?
Great question. So first, we have to be consistent in our work days. Being consistent will allow you to become in a good routine of being able to do the work, and know that your work days are actually work days. When we have these hard conversations, you may have to ask the question 100 times. If you answer those questions 100 times, you will realize that there'll be a level of peace that comes over you once you feel at peace about those answers to those questions. You know, work days are not bad. It's not a bad thing. When you're trying to get over an affair, when you're trying to move from one place to another, you have to do the work. You can go in the gym and you can look at the equipment, but until you start using it to exercise for whatever you're trying to get rid of, it's not going to work. So being consistent, making sure that you do those work days, don't miss no days off. No days off. Let's go ahead and do it. Let's go ahead and knock it out the park. And then that way you can see some results take place. When you're focused on specific things, specific areas, it's not going to change overnight. But if you tackle one thing at a time, you're building brick by brick, one brick at a time.
Thank you. And I want you to jump in on this as well, because I know you work with a lot of couples that are doing their work days. What suggestions would you have for them, Walter?
Sure, absolutely. So one of the things that's helpful is, as Roland mentioned, consistency is the most important thing. So work days allow you to really work on the business of your marriage. So any projects, we even with our work days have an agenda where both of you all actually contribute to that agenda. Oftentimes in marriages, there's this shifting of power where, okay, this person is responsible for this person is responsible for that. For both work days and play days, what they do is they provide this opportunity for a more equitable division of labor. And it starts with those work days and play days. And so things like the agenda and even planning what you're going to talk about needs to include both of your voices. And then when you all come together, what are some projects and things that you all can work on? What are some goals that you have? What are some things that you see that may be coming up financially that hey, we're going to need to plan for this, or we're going to need to talk about this or that? And what you'll find that as you do that on a consistent basis, just like Roland was saying, it's going to build this level of consistency with those conversations where you're not even waiting for your workday. and you're able to have conversations, make important decisions on the fly. So even by the time you get to your work days, they'll become a place where they're really just check-ins and reports about things that you all have done throughout that entire week, and that's when you know you're making the most out of those work days.
Awesome answer. Debbie and Jody said, nailed it, Walter. Nailed it.
Right.
Listen, I said this would be it, but there is one more question that just came to me through text, and it's too important to kind of pass off for another week. It says, I feel like there's a stranger in my house. We don't have sex, hardly ever. He says, I don't want him. It's hard to be vulnerable again when he destroyed what I thought was solid. How do I start over and learn to love and try to trust him? He thinks he's doing his part by being at the house. That's it. He's just present. No intimacy, no conversations, no date nights, nothing. Walter, and then Roland, and then we're going to wrap up.
So because there's a stranger in your house, this is also an opportunity for optimism. And I know that sounds like a really strange word to use right now, but basically this is a chance for you and your husband to get to know one another all over again and have a fresh start and a new beginning. And you all have to adopt that lens in order to be able to move forward. Now, I'm going to share that you may have to do some of the heavy lifting in the beginning, meaning that you're going to need to plan some things, plan some activities, plan some things that you know that he would like to do, make suggestions, and set the atmosphere for you all to reconcile. But it sounds like you all are kind of sitting back looking at each other like, okay, what are we going to do? Okay, what are we going to do? And one of you all has to take the initiative in order to make sure that you move forward in that.
Excellent point. I had to do that in my relationship. I had to be the one to lead and to be consistent. And because Danielle was just like, it's a wrap, it's done. Once the love is gone, it's over. And she wasn't willing to do nothing. I had to be the one. And what happens is when they see your consistency and you showing up a particular type of way, it can motivate them to get on board. Remember, we talk about the difference between a thermometer and I always get this. There's the thermometer and then there's the thermostat. The thermometer checks the temperature. The thermostat creates it. So you want to be the thermostat in your relationship to create the temperature, the environment for your spouse to jump on board. Roland, close us, bring us home.
So listen, the stranger in the house, he needs to step back and say, let me reintroduce myself, right? Let's start over. Let's start from scratch. Let's take this opportunity to create new memories, to create a new atmosphere, to create a new mode of living. As long as you continue to stay strangers, like Walter's point, you know, you're two people waiting to see what's going to happen. Let me see what move you're going to make, or let me see how you're going to react to this. No, we have to get to the point where we become intentional about the things that we're doing. We cannot just allow, day by day to go by expecting something to happen. It doesn't work like that. You're going to have to take the opportunity, reintroduce yourself. This is who I am. And then you're going to have to do individual work to show up as a new person. We got to put some things to bed. We have to let some things go to rest, and we have to bury some things so that way you can have the opportunity to live life again. He's going to have to get to the point where he loves you back to life.
And that's it, folks. You're watching Ask the Experts. Thank you so much for your questions. I hope you got some insight. Enjoy your weekend, and let's get ready for another Monday where we start all over again. Love you guys. See you soon. Take care.